Rev up your engines! Okay, the burning question here is, can you get a car for 200 bucks? Well, this guy did, and it's a Grand Marquis. And not only is it a Grand Marquis, it's the ultimate edition Grand Marquis. And the interesting part of the story is this. Basically, he paid 200 bucks because the guy had new tires, so he basically paid for the tires. The previous owner was going to donate the car. He said, no, I got a 2-year-old kid. This is a safe car. I'll give you 200 bucks for it. Now, yes, right after he bought it, he had to put an alternator and a battery in it, but really, these V8 Ford engines can last forever. He bought it with 140, and now it has 176,000 miles on it. It even came with the obligatory Little Trees air freshener. Armrest is worse for wear, but the leather in the back's still in really good shape. And as everyone knows, they got the monster trunk in these things. You can fit lots of things inside here. Back in the day when all cars had full-size spares and not those stupid run flat tires that make noise, or the baby spare tires, or even worse, the cheaply made modern cars that don't even have spare tires. They're dependable. You get a flat, you put it on, away you go. You don't have to worry about, oh, I got the skinny little tire and I can't drive right now. No, bring back the olden days. And you might say, what, a gas hog? Hey, this thing gets 22 miles a gallon on the highway. Now, the safety factor was a big reason he bought this car for a whopping $200. Got the rear-facing child seat. This thing is safe because it's big and heavy, and yes, it's from Massachusetts, so it's got the rust that people have covered up. Well, you're gonna expect that. Now, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. 200 bucks isn't much for a car, but if you're looking at one, what you really care about is the frame. See how solid that frame is? We don't care that the fender has a little rot in it. The frame is still solid. These Panther bodies, they are solid bodies that can run a really long time. That's the difference between these old cars and the new cars. The new cars, almost every single one of them, is unibody. The body, the frame's all one piece. When it starts to rot, goodbye car. And of course, they're made thinner and cheaper. Unibody, it's one of the reasons they do it. Costs less to make them. They weigh less, they get better gas mileage. But really, 23 miles a gallon on the highway, this isn't that bad. And it won't rot away. Even if some of the body parts rot, the frame is still there. When the body parts rot in the unibody, the whole thing starts rotting. You could say goodbye car. But not really, you might say, how good is a $200 car gonna run? Well, let's find out. Hey, Mark, get that go. Well, to begin with, this thing is about 100 times quieter than that brand new Fiat engine I filmed the other day. It may have all that mileage, but these V8 engines, they can run forever. Now, granted, it's a Ford, so the AC doesn't work anymore, but then again, this is Massachusetts. But the heater works. Puts out a lot of heat. Feels like a bonfire in one of these. We got a little noise here, though. Let's see if we can figure it out. Just realize it's a Ford, so let's jack it up. We'll see if the frame's rotten now. Doesn't appear to be bending. Now, it doesn't like the noise, but there's nothing physically worn. Here's what's happening. It's just an old car. And when you look in here, as you can see here when I zoom in, you can see the rubber bushings are kind of rotten. That's what happens. When these things age, bushings here, they're gonna rot a little bit. It doesn't have any play, but as I said a million times when I was a young mechanic, I had grease fittings, you'd grease them. Now the rubber bushings on metal, as they get old, the rubber gets corroded and it will creak. You could spray a bunch of WD-40 on them all. I like that AT205 reseal because it rejuvenates rubber, but it's kind of hard to find. So you might try WD-40 and you'll find the noise will go away for quite some time. And when it comes back, just spray it again. And interestingly enough, the lower ball joint has been replaced and it's got a grease fitting. So the next time he changes oil, you can pull the wheel off and you can put some grease in off and that'll make the noise go away too. It doesn't have any play, so it's not dangerous. Now generally you gotta wait quite some time, but check it out. A little bit still, but starting to work its way in. And that particular noise might even be the sway bar. They've got bushings, you can unbolt them, put grease in and put them back on. There's nothing structurally wrong. Even the door. Hey, that tells you solid. Old car, bud? Hey, smooth. Even on these bumpy Rhode Island roads, as old as it is, this thing still rides pretty smooth. And when you step on the gas, hey, you hear that V8 engine? It may be old, but it's still moving. And one advantage of this baby is it's got nice clearance. A gigantic lump at the end of the street, it just flew over. It didn't do anything. Got enough clearance, got a decent suspension system. You don't have to worry about dragging the bottom of your car in those stupid speed bumps. So really, 200 bucks for a car that runs this good? Maybe you should do like The owner of this car did. Guy was looking at how to donate a car, and he said, hey, I'll buy it. I'll fix it up and keep it going. There's nothing wrong with doing that if you pick the right vehicle that isn't rotten. I'm sure the fender's been whacked, but I mean, you can get it fixed and repainted if you really want to. You can just leave it the way it is. Over 20 miles a gallon on the highway, a smooth ride, safe for his young child. You can't beat that. Plus, you get cheap insurance on these things. It's an older car, and the insurance companies know they're safe. They have good safety records. New enough, it's got airbags on it. You can save a lot of money on insurance, too. So all hail the $200 car. For everyone else who's looking for a car that might last quite some time for a little bit of money, it's not as bad as you think. Coronavirus has not taken over the world. There are still plenty of deals out there if you spend time and look like he did. And yeah, he had to put an alternator and battery in it. Big deal. It already came with 4 new tires. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Mr. Cortez says, I recently bought an '06 Subaru WRX as my first car. It was in a wreck and I bought it with a wreck title. It shuts off and it won't turn on. Took it to the Subaru dealer in Alaska. There's no good mechanics. The dealer charged me $158 for a new key and they broke it. Then they charged me $150 for a diagnostic and they charged me $228 to get it fixed, and it didn't fix the problem. It's doing the same thing. Help. Demand all your money back. They didn't fix it. Bunch of nonsense, you know? It's typical these days, but I guess in Alaska it's really hard to find people who are good workers anyways. You made the cardinal mistake. Never, ever buy a car with a wreck title unless you know the history of it. When they're wrecked, too many problems. You have no idea what's wrong with that car. It could have electronic problems up to the zoo. That's why they're totaled, and the title is a salvage title because the insurance company said this car's too far gone. We're not going to fix it. You're stuck with a real problem car now, probably. You made a big mistake. Sad but true. You should never buy a wrecked car unless you know the history. Like if it was your friend, you know this part was wrecked, or buy it from a guy who fixed wrecked cars or showed you pictures before and said, look, the side was smashed and I fixed the side. Great. But you bought it sight unseen. You're kind of stuck now. You're going to have to find a good mechanic to check out. I've had people bring me cars like that, and I said, just walk away from them. I said, this car's got so much damage electronically, you're going to spend 5 times what you paid for your car fixing it. That's why companies total them when they're really in a big wreck. Unfortunately, you bought the wrong car. You don't want to buy a wrecked title car unless you know the whole history of it. DeMarcusa says, I have a broken bolt on my valve cover on a 2010 Jeep that I bought brand new, and now it's 247,000 miles, but I broke the middle bolt off when I changed the valve cover gasket. All that stuff was in the way. I tightened it. I'm going to watch it to see if it leaks. What do you think? To fix it right, you got to drill and tap it. There's no working room. It's a real pain in the butt. It might not leak as it stands now, but here's what I would do, and this will always work. You might take that side off again and get some Permatex The Right Stuff. It's gasket sealer that comes in a spray can. It's expensive stuff, but it works. Spray that whole area on the bottom where the broken bolt is. When you put it on and tighten the other ones, that Permatex forms a permanent seal. And it can last for years and years and years. And it won't leak. I can guarantee you. I've done it on millions of cars. Sometimes, say there's 8 bolts holding the valve cover. Sometimes 3 or 4 of them broke off on old junker cars. If you seal that whole thing around, the other ones will hold it, and the sealer, it'll dry, it'll work great. Permatex The Right Stuff. Now here's one I can't resist. Chrysler hired investigators to make a hotline when people in Michigan, where they're building their cars, were complaining about a smell. Now, I always did say that Chrysler's vehicles stunk, but now they literally do stink while they're manufacturing them, and the neighbors are getting mad. It's a Jeep assembly plant in Detroit, and the neighbor said, it really stinks. They said smells are coming from the facility where they were building the Jeeps. Now, they're setting up a hotline so the neighbors can call up when they smell stuff to complain. We all know how hotlines go. They ignore everything you say, and then they deny it. The company says, and I quote, several times a day, a routine monitoring program is implemented on the edge of the site to help determine trends and sources of the odors. Boy, we got bureaucrats coming out the walls here, don't we? Now they've also set up automatic doors that roll down whenever this West End facility is being used. While the poor workers, they're getting polluted and they probably stunk in a factory. They open the doors so they didn't have to smell it. And now they're complaining, so they tell them, we'll close them down. The poor workers, I feel sorry for them. Who knows what they're breathing in there? What their response to the whole thing is, it's so much nonsensical doublespeak where they kiss everyone's heinies. We are working hard toward a shared vision for a positive future for Detroit. Throughout this journey, we will continue to do our best to earn your trust. It's amazing the baloney that these corporations throw out to people, you know? I mean, I just couldn't resist this one. I always said Chrysler vehicles stink. Now they literally do, and the neighbors don't like it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.